Hello everyone, Acura Amanda here. We have an interesting video today. Apparently there was another cop watcher back in 2014. Officer Simonian from the West Palm Beach Police Department attempted to place an injunction for stalking against this cop watcher, similar to what happened to me. So we're going to take a look at the order. And also I wanted to say, if you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for the notifications for when we go live. Enjoy this video. I can't snap that good. Let me try my other hand. There we go, guys. Injunction, junction, what's your function? All right, guys, so let's get down to business. Typically, an injunction is usually filed for example, against husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, victims of domestic violence. But now I'm seeing that, besides me, other officers are actually taking advantage of this injunction and the court system, basically misconstruing that cop watchers are actually stalking these officers, which that's totally false, because we have the right to film them in their official capacity while they're on duty. So in this case, cop watcher, his name is Richard. His channel's name is West Palm Confidential. I'll leave the link to his channel in the description of this video. But Richard has been cop watching and auditing since the late 90s, and I just can't believe that we finally found each other in the last couple of years. So he's a very good friend of mine. I went over his house over the weekend, and we were going through boxes of his old files, and he's like, Amanda, I gotta show you this. Gregory Simonian, he tried to file an injunction against me, but it got dismissed, of course. And he gave me a copy of the petition, and I just wanted to read it off to you. Officer Simonian is no longer with the West Palm Beach Police Department. I believe he retired either late last year or early this year, so he is not in the department anymore, so he can no longer do this. But there's still other officers that attempt to use the court system against us and attempt to get these injunctions granted. But luckily, like in my case, the judge saw right through it. She ruled in my favor. And I mean, it's just ridiculous, guys. But the sergeant that filed the injunction against me, unlike Simonian, he is still with the department, but I haven't really seen him since I saw him in court. I think I seen him one time at Publix. There was another officer that was assigned security detail there, so he was just tagging along and, just shooting the shit with him. So let's get into this. Go subscribe to West Palm Confidential, everyone. And Richard gave me permission to share this with you. So I don't want to give any of Richard's personal information, like his address or his car information, but under Section 4, petitioner is a victim of stalking because respondent has A, committed stalking, B, previously threatened, harassed, stalked, cyber-stalked, or physically abused the petitioner, and C, threatened to harm petitioner or his family members or individually closely associated with the petitioner. Also, under Section 4, when we flip the page over, it's stating under Section F that Richard has a criminal history involving violence or threat of violence if known. So I can speak for Richard. I know he's not here now, but Richard has no criminal history involving violence. Richard was formerly in law enforcement, in corrections, so he wouldn't even be qualified if that was true, which it's not. And he also even addresses it up here and says that Richard owns firearms. So I don't know if that's relevant or not, but yeah, guys. So let's flip over the page. This is actually the report that was attached. On Sunday, March 9th, 2014, at approximately 16:55 hours, I was parked on a directed patrol in the south parking lot of 717 North Tambrin Avenue in attempts to deter narcotic sales. While parked, I noticed a gray Toyota Tacoma passing my location numerous times. It should be noted that the same Toyota pickup was seen following me throughout my sector while I was patrolling today's shift. The Toyota pulled over in the vacant parking lot on the northwest corner of 7th Street and North Tamarind Avenue. The driver parked the vehicle in a manner to visually watch my actions. Due to this suspicious activity, and for officer safety reasons, I backed my marked patrol cruiser X-ray 222 up about 15 to 20 feet to where the business obstructed the view of me. Seconds later, the same Toyota drove south on North Tamarind Avenue. At approximately 5 to 10 miles per hour, and he passed my location. At this time, I clearly identified the driver as Richard and the front passenger as, I'm not going to state his name, this is another friend of mine, who was holding a handheld video recording device and was pointing it in my direction. Again, for officer safety reasons, I changed my location to North Zapadilla Avenue and 10th Street. Just after I properly parked my cruiser on the east side of the road, I saw Althouse, who was following me, parked his Toyota on the west side of North Zapadilla Avenue in the 1200 block. At 17:29 hours, I began, again, move away from my location, and Althouse finally stopped following me. This completed 34 minutes of Althouse and Blink following me during my tour of duty. This type of activity where Althouse have shown up to my scenes and locations is a daily occurrence. The reason why I am now starting to document these incidents is because they are previously progressively getting worse. It has become so frequent that it hinders my ability to properly act out my lawful duties as a police officer. Just last week, I was notified by Officer Harrell that Althouse went to Records Department of the City of West Palm Beach and requested records to check my personnel file, which he does on a regular basis. When in records, he told me, the employee and officer, that he would do everything he could to prevent me from getting promoted. It should be noted that I am currently on the list to be promoted to sergeant. Althouse also goes to the clerk of court to run public records, to check on my name and locate my personal information, to include my vehicle and residence. Guys, I'm not even halfway through this supplement that was attached to the petition for the injunction. And it sounds like this officer is basically saying that we don't have the right to record him under his official capacity. I mean, we could send a camera crew 7 days a week throughout their whole shift, and that would be covered under our rights to record them. This is just absolutely ridiculous and a misuse of what an injunction does for the public. So let's dive back into it, shall we? And another thing to say that, you know, a cop watcher is stalking me because he's pulling my IA consensus file, that's absolutely ridiculous. This not only has affected me in a negative way, my ability to work as an officer, this also has become dangerous to me and my family. I cannot leave my residence without looking over my shoulder because I do not know the intentions of Althouse. On Sunday, March 16, 2014, at approximately 17:08 hours, I was assisting Officer Forbes and Officer Abiro on a civil dispute over child custody at 616 Douglas Avenue. No more than 2 minutes of me being on the scene, I saw a gray Toyota Tacoma bearing Florida tag. We're going to block that out. Driving south on Douglas Avenue and stop on the 700 block. The Toyota parked on the west side of Douglas Avenue and was occupied by a white male driver. I identified the driver as white male Richard from a number of previous encounters. Althouse stayed in the driver's seat and watched my interaction with the male half of the civil dispute. It is unknown if Althouse was recording this incident, but he is usually recording whenever he follows me. Officer Forbes also noticed the presence of Althouse and notified me for officer safety purposes due to his continuous stalking behavior and false complaints. In no way was Althouse involved in this incident, and he had no reason for being there watching me. At 17:20 hours, I left the scene to respond to another call for service. Officer Forbes stayed at 616 Douglas Avenue to complete a CAD report. And Tyson, come on, my dog. He's so nosy. Hold on, where did I leave off? Officer Forbes stayed at 616 Douglas Avenue to complete a CAD report on the incident and notified me that just moments after I drove away, Althouse left the same direction as I did, south on Douglas Avenue. I did not see or come into contact with Althouse for the remainder of my shift. This is being documented for officer safety purposes due to the growing harassment directed towards me. So Richard also told me that over the course of 11 days prior to this injunction being filed with the clerk, that Officer Simonian filed a lot of different police reports against Richard. I have some of those that I'll share with you. So here is the second page of the supplement that was added to this injunction. So it has petitioner Gregory Simonian, respondent is Richard again. The respondent has been stalking me for a period of approximately 4 years. On a weekly basis, he follows my patrol car and videotapes me, the most recent on 3/9/14 for 34 minutes straight. The respondent has been stalking me for approximately 4 years. On a weekly basis, he follows my patrol car and videotapes me, the most recent on 3/9/14 for 34 minutes straight. He will hold the video recorder and will be gesturing me with his middle finger intentionally, trying to provoke me. He has filed several complaints with the Internal Affairs, which he considers to be inappropriate behaviors on my part of not following rules and regulations. These complaints have been investigated and determined to be unfounded with no disciplinary action. One complaint was addressed with me verbally regarding an allegation of improperly parking of my patrol car with the respondent. He walks into the West Palm Beach Police Department requesting my personnel file to continue to harass me into being terminated. The Records Department keeps logs of any request to view a personnel file of an employee. The respondent has told Records Clerk he will do everything it takes for me to lose my chance at a promotion to sergeant. On a daily basis, he is at the police department. The respondent has recently obtained my personal information, such as my home address, my tag number, and my vehicle description. The people I come in contact with on the streets have told me to be careful because he has all of my confidential information. The respondent was formerly a corrections officer in Belglade, involved in illegal activities, and has been involved in 2 murders, including the murder of his partner. That's absolutely ridiculous. The respondent assists suspects in the area of downtown West Palm Beach under his self-employed title of Criminal Justice Information Specialist. These have been suspects that I have arrested while working as an agent in the violent task force as a patrolman in the area. The respondent's consistent harassment has me looking over my shoulder and in fear of my safety and my family. He is a convicted felon and usually carries a weapon or is around someone that has a weapon. I have been doing my job with this consistent threat of him showing up at all times and even at crime scenes where I'm at. He makes comments to me to try to get a reaction. In the past, there have been allegations that he has harassed other law enforcement officers from PBSO and was found to have been videotaping the 7-year-old daughter of the officer outside the residence while the child was in the yard playing. During this incident, respondent was wearing a trench coat and carrying a revolver. It is also alleged to have been going through the officer's trash. I don't want to continue to be harassed and threatened by the respondent. His behavior towards me or my family, he has intentionally affected my ability to do my job as an officer and endangering me with his constant stalking and knowing my whereabouts at all times. I am persistently a field training officer and usually with another officer most of the time. The respondent's actions also endanger other officers that may be with me because of his obsession at targeting me. It hinders my ability to train new officers. So that is quite a summary that Officer Simonian wrote against Richard. I think it's absolute retaliation for Richard holding this officer accountable and other officers as well. I've seen it happened to me where the West Palm Beach sergeant that placed an injunction against me, he said that he was in grave fear. But how are you an officer and you're constantly arresting bad guys, alleged bad guys, and you're scared with somebody that has a video camera? It makes no sense, and it's an absolute abuse of your authority. If you're an officer that doesn't like to be videotaped, so you're going to take out an injunction against the photographer. It makes no sense to me. And, Officer Simonian, you had your Marshall moment and you failed because the judge ruled in Richard's favor. So like I mentioned earlier to you guys, Officer Simonian started filing multiple police reports against Richard prior to this injunction being filed. But, he claimed basically that Richard was filming him for 4 years, but over the course of 11 days, all of these police reports were being made. It makes no sense. So Richard also told me that he actually sued after this one police report was made. And I'll give you guys the details so you'll know why. Richard didn't get a lot of money. I believe he only got $250, but still, it's still a victory. Officers were having a CompStat meeting at 3501 South Dixie Highway regarding the auto burglaries that have been occurring. A red four-door vehicle was observed on the east side of South Dixie Highway facing west, with a white male driver video recording all the officers. The vehicle then parked and turned off, going north on South Dixie Highway. A minute later, the same red four-door vehicle parks in the same area and starts to videotape all of the officers again. I then became concerned for the safety of all of the officers, got into my patrol car and conducted an investigative traffic stop, which ended up in the parking lot of 500 Belvedere Road. So in this report, because Richard was videotaping these officers having a meeting in public on the street, Officer Simonian took it upon himself to pull Richard over. Let's find out what else happened. I approached the vehicle and observed a white male driver hold up a video camera and point it directly at me. I asked for the male's Florida driver's license, and he asked what was the reason I pulled him over. I advised him that it was an investigative traffic stop to determine who he was since he was videotaping the officers. He told me that I could not pull him over for that reason. The white male then gave me his Florida driver's license. I asked him if the audio was recording on his camera. He advised me that the audio was recording. I told the white male, who was identified as Richard Althouse, that he had to turn the audio off because he could not audio record the police. Richard advised that he could audio record the police as long as he told the police what he was doing and that he refused to turn off the audio. I told him to turn off the audio and he refused again. While I was writing his information down, Officer Flipsky told Althouse to turn off the audio as well, and Althouse refused again. During the traffic stop, Althouse called dispatch and requested a supervisor on the scene. Supervisor informed us to get a good field contact and leave the scene. All the information was obtained and all the officers on the scene left. It should be noted that Althouse has a history of driving around, recording officers, trying to get officers to violate his civil rights. He is verbally abusive to the police, and he's a convicted felon. That's a very colorful narrative to paint somebody. A lot of people, not only the police, but people that are anti-cop watchers, they all tend to paint us in this certain light. And, you know, that's okay. They have the right to criticize us, but to bear false witness, that's where I draw the line, guys. So let me know in the comments what you all think about this video and what you think about these police officers placing injunctions against First Amendment auditors and cop watchers to try to hinder their ability to film in public and film the officers on the course of their duties. Take care, everyone.